Welcome to another episode of Ton's 2 Cents T2C podcast. In today's episode, Linking the Dots, Unconventional Paths to GovCon Success, we're exploring life lessons from how creativity and networking in the gaming industry can translate into strategies for government contracting success. I'm Ton Wilson, your host, and today we're catching up with an old college friend, Brian Turtle, the Director of National Sales at Goliath Games. Brian's journey from our days at Albright College dorms to the game industry offers a unique, if not interesting, insights that we're excited to unravel today. I will explain how this can impact our intellectual success in the GovCon industry. Brian, it's fantastic to have you here on the show. It feels like just yesterday when we were lounging in the campus center or the quad at Albright College in Reading, Pennsylvania. There were many fun times, those luckily that were not documented on TikTok or Instagram or anything, at the 80 Pi and Delta Sig mixers and formals. But for our intellectuals who may not be aware, you created, along with two other classmates, Craig and Mike, the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game over drinks during a snowstorm, right? Can you share a little bit about that story and your adventures and your family since graduating in 95, since you're a couple of years younger than me? And
right.
And if you've been back for any big reunions or homecomings.
Right. So yeah, I guess the first part is I'll give the most abbreviated version as possible to the origin of the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, because you're right. It was a snowstorm. It was January of 1994, my junior year, and myself and Craig Fass and Mike Ginelli, fellow Delta Sigma Phi fraternity brothers, we were stuck inside, and so we didn't have the internet in those days, and so we were watching TBS or MTV or whatever, and so the movie Footloose came on, and you know, it was, for whatever reason, it was like, you know what, we're in the mood to watch Footloose tonight. So we left that channel on and had some drinks. And then another Kevin Bacon movie called Quicksilver came on. And then a commercial for another Kevin Bacon movie came on. And it was just like, this is really bizarre that there have been 3 movies stacked up back to back to back, all with Kevin Bacon. And it was like, it's not a marathon or some sort of promotional thing. And it was like, well, has he ever worked with so-and-so? Or has he ever worked with Robert De Niro? And one of us, and nobody ever remembers who says what, but one of us had said, well, no, but Robert De Niro was in The Untouchables with Kevin Costner, and Kevin Costner was in JFK with Kevin Bacon. And all of a sudden it was like, wait a second, we can do that with anybody. So we just stayed up all night throwing names at one another, connecting them to Kevin Bacon. And so that then just sort of led to us playing the game on campus. Eventually we all did graduate. I was class of 95, like you said. And then after college, it still lived on. We were on morning radio shows, and eventually we were on the Howard Stern show. Dateline NBC had a whole expose on the game, and products came out of it. Like there was a paperback book, which was strangely an LA Times bestseller. There was a board game that we created ourselves that really launched my career in the toy industry, which was never really in the blueprint when I was back at Albright. I was a marketing major. I wanted to work in the creative space, making commercials and doing things like that. And luckily, this game has given me a creative enough outlet to not necessarily make commercials like was the original goal, but I've really gotten to touch on so many different facets of business life, from product development to sales to marketing on through. So it's been an adventure. Yeah, we've done things. We had a TV pilot for VH1, which sadly never got picked up, and we, as recently as 5 years ago, had a deal for a TV game show that also sadly never got picked up. But there have been just really cool little stepping stones along the way that have brought me to this point talking to you.
Well, now our listeners actually got the real story on the books, because I know there's a lot of folklore out there as to how it evolved. I remember that snowstorm. I wasn't in Reading at that time. I was back at home in Lancaster, but that was like no joke, that snowstorm. And I guess that's old school Gen X way of binging, I guess. You know, like we didn't have Netflix back then. It was god awful live TV.
Yes, commercials and all.
Yeah. So what do your kids think about this? Do they Do they think like, oh, dad's famous?
Yeah, they really had no idea. It was interesting because, as strange as it sounds, I can't say Kevin Bacon's like on my instant call list when I have great news to share or something like that. But we're kind of strangely connected in a pseudo friendly kind of way. So I say that because we were vacationing in Ocean City, Maryland one summer and noticed that the Bacon brothers were playing up in Dewey Beach, Delaware. So my wife and I went up there and to catch the band and to meet backstage. And it had just so happened that that was the exact night that was the kids' night at the place we were staying at in Ocean City, Maryland, with the big hula hoop contest that my oldest daughter, Lila, was bound and determined to win that year. So we had to sacrifice rooting her on in the hula hoop contest. She wound up coming in second place of all of the kids there at the resort in Ocean City. And we said that to Kevin Bacon, and he was the type of guy to just grab my phone, record a video of himself congratulating my daughter Lila.
Oh,
And then it's like, I don't know, Lila, I guess Uncle Kevin says congratulations. So, but it's been neat because they're both involved heavily in theater, in school and stuff like that. So they've gotten to learn a lot more about Kevin Bacon and his career and my minor role in it. And it's actually become a cool thing for them and for their friends. But on an entirely different note, and I'm sorry for getting so long-winded, you're hitting a trigger subject when I get to talking about my kids. But they were actually beyond just the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. They were such a big, important part of everything we had done at Endless Games, where we'd have these concepts that we just needed fresh eyes on, or we needed a youthful perspective on. And they were really one of the big reasons why we wound up selling our business 25 years after we started it. So I can kind of get a little bit further into that as we discuss more about the business and whatnot. But my kids have had a major role in all things professional and obviously personal in my life.
Yeah. It's hard when you start your own business to not have your spouse and your kids have a huge influence on your decisions, on what you do, how you do things, and how you make priorities and things like that. And so, sometimes they get the short end of the stick, and other times they reap the benefits, and like a personal video from Kevin Bacon, right? They don't see a whole lot of, some of the behind the closed doors of what it actually takes to kind of do this and why dad's not always around and mom and stuff. So I can definitely appreciate that running my own business too. So, but listening to your adventures, and for full disclosure, we're never going to talk about what happened at Albright. So, like what happened there can just kind of stay there.
100%.
And being a Delta Sig, I don't know if I'd want half the things that the Deltas did to make it to the airways. So
Not safe for work, right?
Not safe whatsoever. But from your adventures from Albright College, it's evident that there's opportunity often finds us really in the most unexpected moments. And this story really kind of highlights the power of just kind of being open to life's serendipitous encounters. Like I believe that things happen for a reason. And so let's play with a hypothetical to kind of kick things off on like a lighter note. If you could design a game inspired by any business concept or skill, what would it be about, and how would you infuse some fun into it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen everything. We would at Endless Games, where we would do everything from product development to conceptual design ourselves on up to sales, marketing, and all that other stuff. So it's tough to even think of one that I haven't seen that involves different facets of the business life and business model. But there is something that I always come back to, which is sort of like a junk drawer kind of a game where it involves creative thinking and product development thought processing, in that you break out into teams. And this is like a great corporate retreat type of a game too, where you just have to find ordinary items, a deck of cards or a toothbrush, a paper clip, a pot holder, whatever you can gather in 5 to 10 minutes time, and then create something new with it. I unfortunately don't have a grand example of something I could create with those 4 items, but just trying to come up with something that wasn't
Yeah.
there before. And then the part that I always sort of take it to another layer when I think about something like developing a game like this, it's then you've got this probably crappy product that you've made with paper clips and pot holders, but now you've got a 30-second elevator pitch where you have to sell it to the rest of the room. And then it would be sort of a judgy sort of a game where one player acts as maybe like one of the people on Shark Tank, and they say, oh yeah, well, that's the product and concept I would want to invest in. So I think it has some of that, some of those business keynotes of product development, marketing. You're not going to get your networking or any of that in there, but it still would spark some creative process and some some good thought generating.
Yeah, I like that idea, especially for company retreats or as an icebreaker for things. I have a friend, Justin, in the Vistas, and he makes fun of me, and I make fun of myself too. Is I have a conference tote bag, or I love purses and bags, like who doesn't? But I've got this one that I always take, and it's kind of like my conference travel go bag. It's got everything in there, and he
Nice.
makes fun of me because I'll have snacks or random gummy bears, because gummy bears are my jam. And or I've got a bottle opener, I've got a koozie, I've got you name it, I've got it. So he will randomly come up to me and ask me, hey, you wouldn't happen to have a ruler in your bag, would you? And then be like, oh yes, here I am. So yeah, I think anything that kind of sparks, ingenuity, creativity with what's ever kind of there is resourcewful.
Sure. Yeah, your story, by the way, not to go off on a sidebar here, but it makes me think of the old TV game show, Let's Make a Deal, where at the end of the show, the host would say, if somebody here has some dental floss, and we're going to give you $100. So you should have been in the audience for that, knowing that your magic handbag.
I was born. Yeah, I was born too late. I would have taken taken that game by storm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
So let's go into our main discussion here with connecting creativity and opportunity. So speaking of combining all of these things together, let's kind of pivot to your innovative milestone. The creation of the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game is just an example of how creativity and opportunity and networking kind of come all together to make something impactful. These elements, I think, are kind of crucial, not only in the gaming industry, but across all industries like my own and government contracting, where we have to kind of identify and seize opportunities. Where are we going to be successful? So in GovCon, it's all about connecting with the customer. And my customer is the government buyer, to provide them with either a service or a product to support the mission of their objectives. But how do you think the mix of creativity and seizing the moment and building on connections contributed to your success? And what lessons can other professionals from whatever industry they're in, not just gaming, draw from this experience?
Yeah, I think everything as far as those points of timing, creativity, and a lot of just general good luck fell into place for us. We were in college when this thing started to roll downhill, and we were so naive. It wasn't ever anything that we thought was more than a game we'd play on campus at Albright. And once it sort of broke out of that and started to gain some weird national notoriety, there were people like Howard Stern, for example. We were on his show playing the game as sort of a stupid human trick. And he's like, I can't believe you guys aren't making money off of this. And we were like, well, how could you? We didn't, again, just being young and inexperienced. But it kind of was charming enough about us because we didn't look like we were out for the big money grab. We were just having fun with it. So I think you got to have your passion, and you want to be doing something that you do find enjoyment in, and then some of that good luck will roll in naturally because it's just that positive energy flow. But yeah, it was Howard Stern who said that, I can't believe you guys aren't making money. And then that led to a meeting through that show to the William Morris Agency, who was doing some lighter celebrity books by Paul Reiser and Jerry Seinfeld. And I think they had one by Pam Anderson. And they thought, yeah, this Kevin Bacon game sounds like a great idea for a paperback book. And we've been having some success here lately in that space. So on went the 6 Degrees as a paperback book. And then that then got us into the board game business. And it was all about just not really, I was more about saying yes to everything. You know, we didn't put up any negative roadblocks because we didn't know any better. And then the further along I got in my career, I would just try to get out of my safe zone on things. You know, in the toy industry, we'll have these different events throughout the years, and I've gotten to take on a little bit of a secondary role as a host on certain things that we do for fun. And at some of our conferences, we do a lip sync battle that I've been hosting for about the last 7 years. And
It's
then that
like
just
air bands. Albright
it's
College
exactly
air
there you
bands.
go. It's all going back to Albright life. So yeah, so we're doing that, and then that just gives my brand more exposure. It gives my personal, me being who I am, gives me more recognizability to other people, whether they're fellow manufacturers or vendors, or if they're sales reps or customers or whomever. It's helpful because then they feel like I'm more approachable because I'm telling jokes or just trying to be social in that way. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
about good timing, good luck, and saying yes and being open to whatever's out there.